Hello, and welcome to A Journeyman's Travels. My name is Daniel Scheifler, and welcome. During this season, we've been talking about first principles, that is, atomic units of reasoning about some concept, and we're currently in the last of those, which is leadership. We've been talking about 4 principles which cover just about every aspect, or at least find themselves touching just about every aspect of leadership. And frankly, the topic is far too vast for me to even approach covering it all in an hour and talking about it across 4 episodes. But if I had to pick one last principle to lump in with the other 3, that is, that leadership is not about you, the leader, that it is about the people you're leading, that it is about how you spend your time, and that it is about setting up systems, it would be this: that leadership is about endurance. Now, last time we talked about leadership being about systems and how the leader needed to build the ability of the team to act and to decide even when the leader wasn't present. That is to say, we are to build systems and patterns for consistent actions and then stick to them. This discipline of sticking to it, even perhaps when it's not very fun, is deeply related to endurance. Discipline is the doing of a thing you don't really wanna, so that later you can do the thing you really wanna do. Keeping the consistent, though momentarily unpleasant, habit to keep you focused and growing. That is to endure in some action. But endurance is also maintaining the pressure, pushing towards the goal, and even in the face of momentary challenge or failure, continuing to strive forward. So if you think about some of our great stories, like all of them, think Edison, think Washington, right? These actually start not in brilliant flash of insight, but rather in a place of endurance. How many times did Edison fail to make the light bulb before finally, ba-ding, it happened? What? It used to be often quoted as, I did not fail, I learned another way not to make a light bulb. He had 1,000 different materials he attempted in trying to make this light bulb until he finally found something that worked. Washington didn't lead the states to independence through, some climactic victory, charge up the hill! None of that. Instead, he honestly favored the Fabian tactics, right? Hit and run, enduring cold winters, and mostly avoiding his opponent. Even Sun Tzu, author of The Art of War, lauds the merits of patiently waiting out your enemy. That is, of the value of endurance in combat. But there's something critical I want to highlight in all 3 of these, in Edison, Washington, and even in what Sun Tzu is approaching and saying is good, is that this kind of endurance was not idle. It was not sitting on your hands. It was not stationary. But rather, it was in the moment discipline to keep doing the right thing. And this is where I think that real attachment comes into leadership. That obviously, from those leaders in thought, in military and honestly political victory, what we had was endurance in taking the right action, even in those moments where what we wanted was the glorious overcoming. We had to stick to it for right now. This next element, though, is that recall, leadership isn't about you. It's not about the leader, but it is rather about the people that you are leading. And so endurance in leadership has to mean, in some sense, enduring people, or endurance with people, too. Now, before that sounds like I hate people and I hate working with people, let's be clear. People are tough. They don't immediately change as soon as we have a new idea, right? We are messy, we have these emotions, we have to take our time. People change slowly. Now, to be truthful, we change a whole lot over the first 20 or so years of our life, but that rate slows dramatically after 25, right? You think of it, right? You go from baby completely unable to do anything in the world to what is expected to be a functional adult in society. So while we might be teaching these people who have now entered adulthood new patterns today, expecting them to be perfectly applied tomorrow is incredibly foolish. And it's going to set up the leader and the team for a great deal of frustration. And I have made this mistake. So I'm not saying that this is some grand revelation, but reality is people don't always change overnight. Nothing surprising there. But they're not going to change over a month either. At least, usually not. unless it is something that is just at the surface level. The real deep changes, the kind of mindset shifts that we need to effect to really lead radical and innovative change, take time. We have to look at it like it's a process. Not to say that a good pattern once and then, assume it sunk in and, hope. Rather, we're going to have to repeat ourselves time and time again. And the good rule of thumb I've heard for this from Dave Ramsey and other wise leaders is that you'll need to repeat yourself until it gets to the point where the team can predict what you are going to say. And then they might start to understand it and apply it. But for that to occur, the leader, of course, has to endure for months and perhaps even years to get to that point of working with these people, saying the same things, pointing out the same thing, and giving them the appropriate feedback at the moment to A, keep the business running, but also to move them forward. Now scale that up to an organization full of different kinds of folks with different kinds of leaders and different potentially conflicting desires, and you'll understand why organizations evolve even slower than individuals. Because, of course, they're composed of many such individuals. And until the overwhelming majority of people in an organization believe the same thing, the organization has very little chance of change. But before going further, there is kind of a corollary point I want to make, and that endurance is continuing consistently in the right action, right? Consistency is that key. The leadership, if they can't be consistent with, say, a pattern of a decision that they're making, that they tend to flip-flop in the wind, there's no way the team can follow them. And I've heard it put very well, oddly enough, in a sermon by one Tony Evans. A mist in the pulpit is a fog in the pews. To put another way, small vibrations at the leadership layer are tidal waves and earthquakes to the individual contributor. If you want the team to build momentum towards a goal, the leader has to be consistent, disciplined, and enduring in that goal and in the principles that inform their decision-making. Because you cannot easily follow a wavering guide. We have to be rock solid in pursuing the end and in enduring with our people so that they can understand where we're going and develop that same stolid confidence too. Now, that was all in enduring towards a goal. So speaking of goals, it's also critical to practice endurance on them, right? In order to endure, you have to, have a goal to endure for. No one just sits in a tidal wave because it's fun. We try and survive it. We sit through it. We go through the tough things. We go through climbing the mountain because we believe at the end of getting to the top of that mountain, there is something worth having. Endurance is built on hope for a brighter future and the faith that our actions could bring us to that brighter future. Without the hoped-for future, discipline and the sacrifices we make today are purposeless, and that will crush the soul. Without that hoped-for future, we have no goal to march for and no way to be consistent about our marching. We don't know where we're going. And so lastly, without the faith that the world could be changed and that hoped-for future can actually be, the leader and their team have nothing to pursue. No reason to get up and to go create. In order for a team to pursue a goal effectively, the leader has to be able to articulate the goal, the hoped-for future, to them, and demonstrate a path that can get them there so they can have faith that their actions could move them in that direction. Remember, leadership is not about you, the leader. It is about the people you lead. The core verb is to lead. And we'd explored that earlier, and it means to go out ahead of, to show the way. You can only truly endure if you have a purpose to endure for, and without it, it's not endurance. It's going through the motions. It's being stuck. So this season, we've discussed several of atomic principles for reasoning about leadership. And first and foremost that you've heard me hammer on again and again is that leadership isn't about the leader, but it is about the team and the people whom they are serving. And this kind of guides all of the actions and the improvements which a leader will have to make in themselves. We explored the very nature of leadership and based on the meaning of the word here. And with that greater understanding, we move to discuss how leadership must change how we think about our time. since it's about the team we're serving, the actions the leader has to take can no longer be the same as the individual contributor. Because that wouldn't serve the team, right? Like, if I do the same thing as my team members are doing, I'm not leading, I'm just doing more of the same. Rather, it must now focus us on identifying a goal to pursue, on building the abilities of the team to pursue that goal, and then communicating the same to them so we can begin to move and build momentum. And this led to the idea that leadership was about building the systems for allowing that, specifically building systems about leading, even when the leader was not in the room. This dealt with identifying principles of decision-making, delegating the authority and the boundaries to act, and then building the team's ability, here's that again, the team's ability to see and to pursue the goal. And to cap it all off, we've ended with this reminder that leadership is about endurance. For without consistency, the team cannot build momentum to what they need to achieve the goal. The leader has to be steadfast and disciplined in their decision-making, steady in their leadership, doing the things we don't really wanna so we can do the things we really wanna. But bearing in mind that change in an organization is predicated on the change in the people. Enduring with people and helping them to learn to grow to become more, and not resenting the days of small beginnings. Because people need time and space to grow, change, and to improve. But all of leadership, by its very nature, is to lead the way to a goal. It's fundamental in the verb, the action of leading. That in order to serve the team, we, the leader, must know the goal, hold it fast in our mind, guard our hoped-for future, and the faith that we can make it so. Good leadership is foundational to every element of success. And I believe that with better principles, more people and more companies can experience the kind of success worth repeating and living through. But it comes first from having a right understanding of the first principles of leadership. So thank you for joining me on this season of A Journeyman's Travels. I wish you safe voyages, fellow travelers. Gat med uns.